Happy Father's Day. So glad you guys are here and watching online. If you give us a thumbs up, just kind of let us know you're joining us live, and we appreciate it, and just so glad we could all be together. Now, I want to do something a little weird. You know, I'm weird, do weird stuff anyways. None of you participate. I don't know why I do any of this, but just for a second, if you would, everybody just close your eyes. Okay, one of you did that. Okay, it doesn't matter. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, as a kid, not heavy stuff, not like really deep and like the hurt. I'm just talking about, can you think about a time when you're a kid, maybe in grade school, and someone said something to you and it stung enough that you still remember it now? Can anyone, I won't make you say it out loud. Can anyone remember that? Like hearing something as a kid? Okay, okay, 5 of you, 6, okay, 7, thank you. I'm gonna keep going until you just play along. Okay, just make it up. There we go, good. Yeah, so I was thinking, I went to Waterloo Elementary, home of the Wonders, 2-time state champions in the 30s, basketball, awesome gymnasium, wonderful childhood, and I'm in 5th grade. Waterloo Elementary went from kindergarten to 6th, tiny little school, Waterloo, Ohio. And I'm sitting in class one day, and I look at my best friend, one of my best friends, his name is John Sharp, and I said, John, and said this girl's name, I won't say it, some of you might even know her, and I was like, hey, when we play kickball at recess, I want you to like really build me up, man. I need you to like really, honestly, like you got to be a great wingman, build me up, and then if you think she likes me, I want you to ask her if she'll be my girlfriend. And he's like, I got it, man. Like he was a great friend. He's like, I got it. I'll be selling you. Like we got this elaborate plan during English class. And so we get out at recess, and I'm like behind home plate, and she's out in right field, so he goes out and he starts talking to her. And I watch, and she's laughing, and I'm like, oh, he's doing a great job. And I think she looks at me, so I'm like, okay, she's in. So I keep walking like past first base. I don't care about this game, right? I'm getting ready to have a girlfriend. And as I'm walking out close, like I'm within earshot, and I can hear him talking now. And she's like, well, who likes me then? And he says, Trent. And I'm not kidding. She went, who? Trent? Ooh. 3 words. 3 words, literally changed my life forever. I mean, I'm walking out like, man, we're going to probably embrace. We might start kissing in right field. It's going to be like a movie. And I get so close to her, and I'm watching, she's smiling because I think he's building me up. And she literally says, who? Trent? Ooh. That hurts. I thought you guys would be like, oh, you guys just laugh. There's some sickos in this room. All right, let me just tell you about some pain. I know a lot of us have heavy childhood stuff. This isn't heavy, just have a little fun. But I can remember stuff. I remember in high school, I transferred to Ironton my junior year, and there was this girl who's a cheerleader. I liked her. She was very friendly, so we keep talking every day. Like at lunch, I would sit with her and talk, and I'm like, yeah, she likes me too. I can tell she's friendly. She laughs at my jokes. And so about 3 weeks in, I'm ready to pop the question. So we're walking in the hallway one day, and I said, think you'd be my girlfriend? You know what she said? I'm not making this up. This is girls, can I help young girls in here? You think you're being nice, but you're not. She said, oh, I just consider you a really good friend. She put me in the friend zone. And then she took a step deeper. She said, I actually think of you like a brother. Like, I don't want to be your brother. I want to kiss you, right? And I know in some places you can do that, but around here, like, probably here you can do that, but you shouldn't do that. So it's like, I was like, this is so crushing. And I just want you guys to, I got a point with this. I promise I'm going to just tell my life stories up here. Last one. I'm in a junior high basketball game, and my great aunt, however you want to pronounce it, she comes to Sims Valley basketball game, and I wasn't a great athlete, loved sports, terrible basketball player, and we finished the game, and I'm walking off the court, and it's the only game I ever remember ever being at anything. I don't know why she was there, but she said, let me tell you something. Your older brother and your little brother, they are really good athletes. I think you're the sweet one, though. Now, how does that make you feel when you just finished the game? You lost like 40 to Colgrove, just got mauled. I was like half the time on the bench. But she's like, but you're the sweet boy. I want to be like, come on, man, 7th grade, no one wants to hear that. The reason I'm telling you that, though, I'm 45. I turned 45 like a week ago. And at 45 years old, I can still remember things that happened to me in 5th grade. I can remember things that happened to me in high school. I can remember things in junior high, negative stuff, right? And I want to say this, you guys. We're going to talk about the power of words, 500-pound words, 500-pound words. And I want to kind of challenge you because some of you in here, you're truth tellers, and it's awesome. And you do this, though, especially guys in the room, okay? Fathers, listen to me. This is how you operate. It's like, I just told him the truth. I just told him the truth, man. That's cool. But you know what you call someone who tells the truth all the time? A jerk. Really, seriously. Because it's not that you're not supposed to lie. I'm not telling you to lie. I'm not telling you to be dishonest. When someone asks you something, yes, tell the truth. When I'm speaking, hopefully, I joke a lot, but hopefully when someone's serious, like, if I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, when I speak, I always want to speak truth. But all truth doesn't have to be spoken, right? And you guys know this. Have you ever seen a baby and they look awful? Right? That's not the time to be like, oh, that's an ugly baby. It's not. You're like, well, what do you do, Trent? How do you not lie? I always say, oh, she looks just like you, right? It's the last one. Okay, so here's what we're getting into it. We're in Acts chapter 9, and we're going to talk about words. And I want to give you this thought, okay? And I know this is going to sound like a TED Talk, but it really is, truly, I think, important. Changing your words can change your life. Now, I know we're all like, oh, okay, here we go, kumbaya. It's not that. What I'm trying to tell you is, so there's a guy in the Bible, his name was Saul. He became a Christian, then he changed his name to Paul. And Saul in the Bible, and this is what I think is really interesting, is Saul hated followers of Jesus. They called it back then followers of the way. They called it the way. We're all walking and following the way. Jesus, because he said he was the way, the life, truth. So they're all like, we're followers of the way. Well, Saul, as a Jewish, like he's hardcore, he's intense, so he's like, I want to kill all of them. I want to put them in prison. So he goes on this rampage. This is what it says in Acts chapter 9, verse 1. It says, meanwhile, Saul was uttering threats with every breath and was eager to kill the Lord's followers. Uttering threats with every breath. So every word out of Paul's mouth was how much he hated followers of Jesus. But I think it's more important than that. I notice how it says, he was uttering threats with every breath. Every word out of his mouth was negative, hate-filled, angry, violence. That was him. And then one day he's on his way in Damascus. He's on his way to go throw more Christians in prison and to kill more. And Jesus, he meets him there. And Jesus speaks to him. And it's a crazy, crazy, like miraculous thing. But Paul in that moment's like, okay, Jesus, I will follow you. This extreme, crazy, miraculous story. But here's what's interesting to me. If you just go down literally 18 verses, get to verse 19, it says, Saul stayed with the believers in Damascus for a few days after he became a follower of Jesus. And it says immediately he began preaching about Jesus in the synagogue, saying he is indeed the Son of God. Immediately he started what? Preaching good news. So he went from his life of truly uttering death, hate, kill, to words of good news and healing. Killing to healing. Those are his words. Literally his life changed in these 18 verses. But I think it's interesting. They changed in how he spoke, too. But here's the problem. If you've been murdering or putting Christians in jail, then all of a sudden you walk in and you're like, hey, guys, funny story. I'm one of you guys now. In the South, we say, I'm one of you-uns. What do these people do, though? They're not. They don't trust him. They're scared to death he's got some ploy to be aspired to do something crazy, so no one trusts him. They didn't want him in their camp. Look at verse 26 of Acts 9. It gets good. It says, when Saul arrived in Jerusalem, he tried to meet with the believers. They were all afraid of him. Of course they would be. He's been killing and putting them in prison. They did not believe he had truly become a believer. Then Barnabas all through the New Testament is known as the encourager. He's always the encourager. And I think this is so cool. It says, then Barnabas brought him to the apostles and told them how Saul had seen the Lord on the way to Damascus and how the Lord had spoken to Saul. You see, I told you guys, changing your words can change your life, but changing your words can change someone else's life too. It can. Here you've got a guy who's like, no, guys, I promise I've changed and I want to be part of the group and I want to be in the in crowd. No, arm's length. And it takes one guy, the encourager, walks in and says, guys, I'm going to vouch for him. I believe him. I've talked with him. The encourager, his words changed Paul's trajectory of his whole life from just the words that Barnabas spoke. Why? By building up, by being encouraging. I want to read just a few chapters down just to tell you who Barnabas was. It says, when the church at Jerusalem heard what had happened, they sent Barnabas to Antioch. When he arrived and he saw this evidence of God's blessing, he was filled with joy and he encouraged the believers to stay true to the Lord. He's constantly, what? Speaking words of encouragement. He's building people up. That's what he did. So Paul went from this guy, Saul, he changed his name after he converted too, but he was Saul who hated and tried to, imprison and punish Christians to Paul, the apostle, who's like, now I want to follow Jesus. And from that point to this point, one of the main things that happened was he changed his words, but there was someone in the middle who spoke up for him. There was someone whose words changed his life. And as we're about to see here, I want to kind of walk through Paul in a letter to the church in Ephesus. Okay, so he wrote this letter to his church. In the 4th chapter, he starts giving advice, and I believe, this is just me, you look it up, fact check, doesn't matter. I just personally believe, as Paul was writing this, I can see him kind of pausing for a second and thinking about Barnabas. And as he's about to give us kind of this advice, this instruction, this way of how we kind of live in the gospel and the new commandment of Jesus, as he's about to give us this good news, I can picture him saying, kind of like what Barnabas did for me, and kind of what I used to be that I don't want to be anymore. So I just want to give you just a couple thoughts real quick, and we'll go kind of fast with this. But the first is this, and I want you to understand. Negative words weigh more than positive words. Do you know that? Negative words weigh more than positive words. There's a study in business. There's a business theory. It's a ton of studies. But they say in the business marketplace, okay, so if you're a boss and you're going to get on one of your employees, they say you need to have a healthy ratio. It debates, but it's between 5 and 9 positive words to 1 negative word. 5 to 9. Now, I used to think that for my family. I was like, that's a good business idea. It should be 5 to 9. So in our own home, with my wife, I want it to be 9 to 1. Or with my kids, I need it to be 9 positive to 1 negative. But as I've gotten older and raised teenagers, now they're out of our house, I've learned it's way different. I believe in our families, it's not like business. I think in our families, it needs to be 30 to 1, 40, maybe 50 to 1. It's way higher. Why? Because we all need encouragement. And some of you here are so good with negative words. I know. Comes natural, doesn't it? But I got thinking, you know who Jesus had harsh words for? Jesus spoke the most harsh words to religious, self-righteous people who spoke harsh words to others. He did. You want to know who Jesus got the most upset with? Was the religious elite who thought they were the elite and spoke down to everybody else. He came at them all day long. And for some of us, we're like, oh no, it's not like that for me. But it is. It is. How's your inventory of your words? How do you do with your words? As you watching online, how are your words? Is it 5 to 1? Is it 1 to 1? I've been in a lot of counseling sessions in this back room with people calling it quits in their marriage. And one of the things I always kind of notice is, even when I'm listening, is like this whole time we've talked for 30 minutes, there's not been one positive thing said. I know you guys are mad at each other, but that's probably a little picture of your life. And who wants to be part of that? It's that encouragement that Barnabas brought. Here's what he says in Ephesians 4:29, the first part. He says, don't use foul or abusive language. The Greek word there is like stinky, like rotten. Now, in the Christian world, Bible Belt, what we do, we look at our kids and say, you know what that means? Don't cuss. No one's going to cuss. Don't you dare cuss. And I'm for it. Yeah, don't cuss. I'm not even saying do that. But that's not what he's talking about. He's like, hey, I'm talking about language that literally makes people sick. When we gossip, when we're trashing someone that maybe we don't even know the whole story. But why? Because we don't like them. When we get upset with someone and we just lash out and say the most hurtful thing. And can I warn you guys real quick about this? Here's what I've learned in my life. Because I have a few good skills. One, I think I'm good. I'm a quick talker. I talk loud. I spit. So I can win a lot of arguments. But I think even more than that, I kind of have a quick-wittedness to me. So my comebacks are always like good burns. So what I'll do is I'll get upset and then I'll just like say something that's horrible to you. But you know what I'll do after I woke up? I'm like, I'm sorry. And I think it's just supposed to fix everything. I've done it with my kids. I've said such hurtful things to them or my wife, and then I'm like, I'm sorry. Why are you still mad? I just expect it to be completely taken away. My little brother's in here, and I remember when he was little, he had a motorcycle, a little Honda 50 that he rode around, and long story short, my dad told him, this is a good Father's Day advice, he was like, you're an idiot, you're not great on this motorcycle, You can ride it in the yard, wreck as much as you want, but don't get it on the road. We lived on this country road that's winding. He's like, because cars are flying, going to come around the curve, you're going to get killed. Okay? Well, one day, Dad's at work, nobody's home, and my other brother, we look and we see Brad taking off. He's leaving. We don't care, right? He gets on the road until he starts walking back with the bike. You know why? Because he got hit by a car. He literally got hit by a car. That thing was mauled. He's crying, so we think he's like dead, I don't want Dad to know. Got to hide the bike. But it's just mauled. He's mauled. The bike's mauled. But my favorite part was he was telling us, he said when this girl, she was like 21. So you imagine you're driving a country road, 21, music blaring, you come around the curve and you hit a kid on a motorcycle. And he said she was crying. But my favorite part is he said, she kept saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's okay. I just got to get my bike home so no one knows. He literally put it in our garage and put a tarp over it and hid it for like 3 years. So no one ever knew. My dad may be hearing this for the first time. He actually knows he wrecked a bike. But here's the best part of that. Do you think, and I know she meant it. She didn't want to hit him. She felt awful. She was probably scared to death. But she's sitting there like, I'm sorry, because she doesn't know what else to do. But did that sorry fix his mauled left arm? Did it fix the bike? No. And I think for some reason we do that with our words. We're like, no, I told him I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. There's been an accident. There's been damage. And damage doesn't get fixed by us just saying, I'm sorry. Here's the best part. I've watched people get mad that you don't accept my sorry. Oh, you're still mad? Grow up. So wait, now you're mad at me because you said something hurtful and I didn't respond the way you want? You get what I'm saying? That's what we do, though. Negative words weigh more than positive words. I want to play a little game with you guys real quick, okay? And you know how you play rock, paper, scissors? I want to play a game called Paper, Rock, Block, okay? Paper, rock, block. And I want you to think about your words before we get ready to get out of here. I want you to really think about this, okay? If I were to say, you know what, is that old Trev in there? You can see Trev. If I was to walk over here and say, you know what, Trev, I've wadded up this piece of paper, this is a paper game, and I've got a wicked arm, okay? I'm going to throw this at your face from here at 72 miles per hour. You worried? No. And also, I know we all think it's a cheesy illustration, but it's true. I also grabbed a rock from the parking lot, okay? I'm going to throw this as hard as I can at your head right now. Are you worried? You shouldn't be, but they should be, and they should be, right? But here, why? What's the difference? Well, this paper doesn't weigh as much as this rock. It's heavier, like your words. But if we got really serious here for a second, what if I said, you know what, Trevin, I'm going to take this cinder block, and I'm going to literally drop it on your head. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, dude, we got the idea. Quit it. Move on. But here's the thing. I don't think we get this with our words. Some of you in here, your words are so heavy, and you're crushing people around you. And in your mind, you're like, what? I just told them the truth. Why? I was upset, so I blew up that time. All those very crushing. Negative words weigh a lot, but you know what else I found? Close words weigh more. What do I mean by that? People who have a close relationship to me, when they say something, it truly, truly hurts. Why? Because I value them. My wife can vouch for this. About 15 years ago, we got rumors from a friend that someone was bashing C3. It's happened a lot. But this is one of my favorites because I'm talking to this person who I trust, and they're like, yeah, they're telling me about this other church and this guy. And they said they're bashing you because they're saying you were inappropriate like 2 Sundays ago. I'm like, more than 2 Sundays ago, but okay. And they said the issue is that you were preaching with no shirt on. And my wife lost it. She lost it. To this day, that's one of her favorite quotes ever about someone not liking us here. Because she's like, one, God bless you, Trent, look at your build, right? That's not bringing anybody in. You're hairier than a woolly mammoth. But here's the thing. You know what? That did not hurt me. Not because I'm mature, not because I'm more advanced than the rest of you. That didn't hurt me because it's someone I don't even know. And if I'm being kind of honest, I don't really care. I don't even know them. They don't know me, right? I had someone tell me once, they said I was a poor excuse for a pastor and a Christian. That stings a little, right? But you know what? I didn't think about it. I can laugh about it now. You know what? They don't know me. That's a shot from a distance. But you know, if I was walking out this morning and Caitlin said, I think you're a poor excuse for a follower of Jesus, that would hurt, right? If I walk out and my wife tells me, she's like, I think you're whatever, that's going to hurt. But that goes both ways. Close shots have good and bad. And I can prove this. I know it's Father's Day, but I'll talk to the ladies for a second. All the moms in here, okay? Let's pretend real quick. Let's pretend you go out to eat. And you get fixed up, going out with the girls. It's your first night out away from your kids. Your kids are in middle school and high school. You're excited. So you're all dressed up and you walk out and you sit with 4 of your old high school friends. And they say, how do you still look so good? I mean, you don't look like you've aged a bit. You look 10 years younger than the rest of us. And by the way, girl, that dress is fire. All of you in this room, women, you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to feel good. You're going to walk in that night feeling a little lighter, a little better. Because why? People are bragging on you. It'll mean something because they're your friends. But flip it. What if you're walking out of the house and as you're walking out, your 16-year-old daughter says, Mom, what are you wearing? You look like a smoke show. Dads here have no clue. But I have a daughter and I've watched my wife. When my daughter brags on my wife, she's like, oh my gosh, her? Really? This looks like she won Miss America or something. She's crying whole fun. Me? You know why? Because that's the voice that matters. And let me talk to you kids for a sec, okay? If you live at home still with your parents, you have no clue how much your words mean to your parents. You don't. And I mean that. And I always try to tell my kids, because my daughter can be kind of harsh like me, and we got kind of a harsher personality. But I would try to always tell my kids, I'm like, look, this isn't saying it for me, so you'll build me up. But I would kind of get them to the side sometimes. I would say, you have no clue how much your words matter to your mom. You have no clue. You know why? Because that's the closest words in her life. What they say to her matters. The people she loves the most. Right? So it's not just the weight of our words when it's negative. It's how close are those people to us. Negative words weigh more. Closer words weigh more. But here's the best part. My words, that's what Paul ends with. My words either build up or they break down. Look at his words. So he says, let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. Now, I know some of you here, if you're a boss or you're a leader of a team, or maybe you're a larger company watching online, I get you're like, that's cool. That's good church stuff, buddy. But that doesn't work in the real world. Sometimes I have to get on people. Sometimes I have to have uncomfortable conversations. I'm not saying everything you say has to be flowery. What I'm telling you is everything you say should be thought out because you're trying to build up or benefit that person. See, I can say stuff my kids don't want to hear and still be trying to build them up. But by doing that, I have to say it's not about me. It's not about what I want in this moment. I brag on my wife a lot, but she is a genius at this, and she's taught me this. I've gotten better since the kids were older because I became the bad cop in our family. But I'm saying this is some really good advice. What I've learned from my wife is there'd be times I'd be like, I'm ticked. I'm going to go light up my son and say something. And she would say, don't. What do you mean not? She's like, you do. You need to have that conversation. But right now is not a good time. And what I've kind of learned from her, and this is some good parenting advice, it stood the test of time, is I want to say what I want to say the way I want to say it. And my wife's taught me, no. You need to say what they need to hear and the way they need to hear it. And there's been so many times I've been like, I'm going to go, and I'm like, and now I've gotten older, I'd be like, hey, do this. And she's like, I'd wait till tomorrow. Wait till 2 days from now, because this is going on. They're not going to hear what you're saying, right? But you see what I mean? That's our conversation. It's not just me saying something. It's like, how are they going to take this? And am I saying it in a way they need to hear? Because I know they need to hear. This is what Paul's saying. He's saying, let everything you say be good and helpful, even if it seems like it's not great in the moment. But when I get mad and I just lash out, well, I just got upset, that's why I blew up. No, Paul's saying, no, don't ever do that. What he's saying is, let every word come out be helpful for building up. So as I kind of close today, I wanted to share this with you. I was thinking about some comments, some moments where close words have really kind of done so much for me. My wife, who's in the back here, her parents, so my in-laws, they have a phrase, and they're kind of making fun of us, but they say it, and we love it. They're not really, it's kind of like a little dig. But their joke always is, you're the two, so they have 3 daughters. They're like, you are the two that we fully believe could live in a little wooden box in the middle of nowhere, and we would visit you a year later, and you two would be in there cracking jokes. Like you're the only 2 people we've ever met who can just entertain each other the whole time with nothing outside of you. And what they're kind of saying is you're both weirdos, you know, and no one else really gets your sense of humor, I'm sure, and you know, you're immature. I'm sure all those things. But what they're really saying, it's the greatest compliment to me. It's like at the end of the day, you don't need anything else. You two are really, truly happy with each other. And I got thinking about the power of dads. And my dad, who's out in the lobby, and, you know, he grew up, and all you guys my age and, like, older, you know, generations change. It is what it is. But my dad is part of the generation, you know, they're tough. You be tough, which I love. But it's not like, oh, baby, come here, hug daddy. It's, you know, it's a pretty, like, it's a tough word. He grew up with a ton of brothers, big family. And my dad wouldn't be the type, like, just complimenting. He's changed now, he's gotten older. But then it'd be like, you know, it wasn't a lot of compliments. And I was thinking back to 2015. I remember when we built this place. First week we were walking in, I was walking right back there. And he was standing inside. He was just kind of looking around. And he said, this looks really good. I'm impressed. And I don't know why he said it, but he looked at me right in the eyes and he said, I'm really proud of you. Now, I'm a 45-year-old man, and I'm telling you, those words to this day still carry so much weight. And here's what I want you guys to hear. You guys don't believe your words don't count. Oh, I know people's words can hurt me, but my words aren't the same. It's exactly the same. So here's what I want to challenge you guys with. You can never get or give enough sincere encouragement. Let me say that again. You can never give or get enough sincere encouragement. That's what I want to challenge you guys with today, is as we walk out of here, let's use our words to build up. You see, I can take this block and I can drop it on your head today and maybe kill you. But I can also take this block and I can set it on the ground, and then I can go get another block and stack it, and I can build a skyscraper. The exact same thing. One is very heavy, but it's being used for something good to build up. The other is used to destroy. And this is what Paul's saying. He's saying, don't let your words go that way. Now, let me just talk to the followers of Jesus real quick. If you're here this morning or online, you're not, I get, man, that's awesome you're here. Hopefully you can take something with you, and I'm thankful for you, and maybe God's kind of speaking to you. But here's what I'd say. If you're a follower of Jesus, this isn't a TED Talk. What this is Paul is saying, hey, remember the new commandment? This new commandment that supersedes it all that Jesus left us with, where he says, as I have loved you, now love one another. This new great commandment, that's it. Paul's like, let that work in your speech. Let everything you say be that. As I've been loved by God, then I want to love others. So Trent, you're telling me Jesus said everything? No, Jesus said some tough things sometimes. But Jesus was always saying something for the benefit of those who were listening. Not because he was mad, not because he had a bad day. And that's what Paul's saying to us. As you've been loved, love others with your words. That's the power. If you follow Jesus, then you're choosing an others-oriented life. I want you to hear this verse, Matthew 20:28. It says, this is Jesus talking, for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus said, I did not come to be served to get what I want. I literally came so I could serve others and give my life for them. And Paul's saying, do you see the correlation here? Do that with your words every day. I would never say anything nice about them. No, it's not about me. It's not about you. How can I serve and love others with my words and not just my actions? How can I make sure every conversation I have is with joy and encouragement? How can I make sure I'm building people up? Paul said that's what we're called to do as followers of Jesus. And here's why that's so important. I have 2 close friends who want nothing to do with God, and they hate the church. And all of us in here could be like, oh, well, they should. We're the best people in the world. Well, we're not, okay? But 2, here's the thing. When you hear their story and you hear how people who claim to follow Jesus treated them and spoke to them, you're like, I get it. Why would you come back to that? And that's what Paul's saying. He's like, if we're going to represent God, then let's make sure we represent him. And how we love, build up others, not to break them down. Even if it's something they don't want to hear, it's always done completely in love and for their benefit, not mine. Now, this is like it's not my style at all, and I didn't even do it in the 9:30. But I'm going to close with like the oldest old school like preacher story. I actually looked it up, true story, but it's old school preacher, okay? So as we close today for Father's Day, I was thinking about this because I know some of you in here wish you had a dad or a mom or parents who could have said things to you. To you, it's not even the weight of words that were said. Some of you have that. You heard why can't you be more like your brother? Why, we wish we didn't even really want you. You've heard some really, really big, bolder stuff. Some of you were waiting to hear something you never heard, and it was just I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm so glad you're my kid. And you never got that. Here's a preacher story. It's true, though. I was reading this book, this biography of a guy who taught at a seminary in the South for like many, many years. And he said they went to Tennessee on vacation. And he said, we're sitting at the table, my wife and I. And he said, there's this old white-haired man walking around. And he keeps stopping at tables and he's talking to them. And he said, I looked at my wife and said, I mean, they're on vacation. He was like, will you just pray right now this weird old man does not stop to talk to us? And he said later, she kind of laughed. He said, no, pray. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to eat my breakfast and we're going to go hit the mountains. He was excited. Sure enough, this old guy gets over by him and he's like, hey, young man. This guy's like 60. I like old people when they call a 6-year-old young man. Hey, young man. And he's like, what do you do? And he was like, I literally wanted to run him off. So I was like, I'm a preacher. Because normally then people don't want to talk. And he was like, well, I got a preacher story for you. And he said he sat down in a chair. We didn't invite him to sit down. He said, I got one for you, though. And he said he started telling about his whole life. Didn't have a dad, mom in and out, pretty rough home life, poor in the backwoods of Tennessee. And he said, the whole time I'm still like, that's cool. I don't want to be here. I just want to go hit the mountains and enjoy vacation with my wife. He said he wouldn't stop. He just kept going. But he said, you know my biggest problem was? I never knew who my dad was. So this is an old guy sitting there. He said, and the problem is when you live in the South is everybody, when they meet you, they say, well, who's your daddy? And he said, I learned as a kid to hate it. He said, because I'd be sitting in a group, you go into a store to get a Coke, and there'd be a guy, well, who's your daddy? And I never had an answer. And he said, when I was a teenager, there was this new pastor that came to this church in town, and people loved him. And he said, I started walking over there. This old guy telling it. He said, I'd sit in the back. And right as they get ready to pray, like many of you C3ers, we got out of there, right? He said, I did the same thing as soon as they got ready, because I didn't want to talk to anybody, because I knew the question. He said, one day, he was so good. And I was into it, and it was just like, man, this is great. He said, I lost track of time. He said, next thing I know, he's praying. And before I realized that he was in the back shaking hands, he said, I walked by to shake this guy's hand, and this pastor asked me the one question I dreaded my whole life. He said, well, who's your dad? And he said, I just looked at him, gave the nod. I don't know. And he said, this pastor looked at me, this preacher, and he said, I'll tell you who your dad is. Your dad's the Almighty God of the universe, and you're his son. And here's this phrase. He said, and boy, because they're South, boy, don't ever forget it. And this guy said as he was listening to this old man, he said in that moment, he was like, this is a pretty good story. He said, but he got real quiet. And he's like, I took enough of your time. But he said, man, I don't know where I would be if he hadn't told me that day. Now, this is where it goes super churchy, okay? It was pretty good. As he walked off, a waitress came by, and they're like, yeah, we were talking. She's like, you talked to... And she's like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no. And they're like, that's Governor Hooper. He's the ex-governor of Tennessee. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because that's the good news for all of us in here. Maybe you didn't hear what you should have. Maybe you heard things you shouldn't have heard. But I want to be that guy for just a moment and let you know, as cheesy as it sounds, the God of the universe, and I love what Ethan said today, says, you're my son, you're my daughter, and no matter what, you got to understand, that's enough. You don't have to strive. You don't have to keep doing more. Be better, do more. You're my kid. Now live in that. And that's the good news. That's who your dad is. So this morning, as we get ready to pray, if you would just join for just a second, I want to pray. Everyone in this room, everybody watching online, just take just a moment, okay? Just kind of get quiet and close our eyes. And I want you to hear some really heavy, good words. And here it is. The God of the universe loves you more than you could ever imagine. You're his child. And if you don't get anything else today, throw all the words outside. I want you to hear these words. He loves you unconditionally. That's the good news of the gospel. He loves you so much that he gave his son so you can have life. His son did what we couldn't do and paid the price we couldn't pay so we could be right with God. That's the good news for you today. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus here this morning, here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. I'm going to challenge you when you leave here this week. When you get worked up, when you're angry, when you're about ready to let something slip or say something that you know you shouldn't, just if you could, just take a deep breath. Just count for a few seconds. And just think of this thought. Is what I'm getting ready to say going to build up or better this person? Because if it's not, according to Paul, that's foul and abusive. And just don't say it. I want to challenge you this morning to be that person. I want to challenge you to be good news to some people this week at work and at home in your neighborhood, because you're the one who encourages. You're the one whose words always build up and don't break down. Your words heal, not kill. That's what Paul's trying to teach us. Father, I thank you so much for this group. Thank you for this time and for the fathers in this room, for the fathers listening. God, so many great, amazing families, and we are so thankful for them. For some of us here, it's kind of a sad day because we think about how much we love those who are not with us anymore. But I just pray today that we would be reminded as fathers, as parents, as kids, as co-workers, as bosses, our words have incredible weight. And our negative words weigh even more. So God, help us to use our words only to build up and to better, to love as we have been loved with our words and our actions every single day. Father, as we leave here today, let us be good news to a world that desperately needs it. And we ask these things in your name, and amen. Guys, have an amazing Father's Day. Hopefully we see you next week for the final week of the series.